Nice. I think going forward, we should just have the recording started at the top of the hour because a couple times now I've sort of forgotten that we weren't recording and then have to start over. So, and we can always crop it. All right, GM everyone, welcome to another edition of Pinto Town Hall. Great to see we have a lot of people here this week, which is exciting. I'm curious. People will chime in and share what inspired them to come this week. Great to have Sovereign Llama here, who we haven't seen in a little while. Ted Chan, Ni Chan, I guess you're off work today. Welcome everyone. How we doing? Awesome. All right. So the way these go is typically we go around hearing from contributors what they're working on, what's on their mind, and we have an open period for questions, comments, FUD, insights, thoughts, etc. And then at the end, if there's time remaining, I'll fill some time by talking about what I've been paying attention to and looking at in the farm. So, all right, with that, why don't we kick it off? Frio, how are you doing, sir?
GM Farmers, how we doing?
We lit.
Great. This week, I've been focusing most of my work with Burr and Pinto Pirate. You know, integrating the convert order book and convert bonus into the UI. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the middleware in order to one get all the graphs, with the new data properly shown on the UI page, and additionally, showing all the tractor related data. So this includes the tractor executions and all the orders that will, be open slash, waiting to be open at certain prices. So it's a bit of a technical hurdles to get that done, but slow and steady wins the race, and we're making steady progress there.
Thanks for the update, Frio. When do you think at this point we can expect the convert bonus to go live?
Yeah, I'll let Burr talk about how the UI is doing. He recently told me yesterday that we're getting a UI that we're ready for QC and review. So hopefully the next day or so I'm able to look at that. The biggest blocker right now is with the middleware. For reference, usually how we do these tractor blueprints is with an API where you know the API will scrape data from the subgraph and then present it in a more comprehensible format. There's a lot of data that has to be processed from the subgraphs, even though the subgraphs themselves do a processing through the on-chain data in order to present the actual executable orders and execution history. So, I'll let Burr talk about more about it, but we have kind of two methodologies in order to kind of get the data. And although the API is not the blocker per se, as in launch, we would like to have that ready for launch, on the day of. So, in addition to that, I'm doing a bunch of consolidation on the branches. Uh, there was some open-ended loose ends I had to fix, and currently I'm scoping out uh about 2 weeks from now, but hopefully, between 1 to 2 weeks is my estimation at this point.
Wow, very exciting. Thank you for all that. And is there anything on your mind you care to talk about what's been going on the farm?
Not at the moment, not at the moment. I mean, it's very exciting to see the protocol, inch back to value target due to the general market, and also seeing how with the crop ratio going back up to 200%, we've been seeing an uptick in converts. But other than that, nothing much on my mind.
Cheers for all that content for you. All right, why don't we swing it over to Burr? care to share about the convert order book timelines and how things are going there?
Sure. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, so as Freeho mentioned, I've been working closely with him and trying to get this up to speed. I do have a version ready for QC that Freeho should be able to take a look at tomorrow. As he mentioned, the only thing that hasn't been implemented is the middleware stuff, and we technically don't necessarily need the middleware, like the API and the subgraph, to have this data, such as like the execution history and all the orders themselves, in order to actually have or show this information on the UI. But it's just a little bit slow unless we have that. And so, yeah, if as soon as that gets completed, I will go ahead and implement that into the current implementation. That way we have like some sort of like hybrid on-chain approach with the subgraph data. And so I will be working closely with Freeho and other people this week to make sure that the So Order Book UX is in a good place so that other people can get started can start using it soon.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Yeah, as people who are following closely know, this really is the last major upgrade to the peg maintenance mechanism that we have planned for the foreseeable future. With most of the future upgrades that will happen either being tractor, which is more of an efficiency for users improvements, and maybe smaller changes like potentially removing the cap on the crop ratio. But from a larger model perspective, this really is it's a big deal. So very exciting. Thank you, Frio and Burr, for your updates and all the work you've been doing on that front. All right. Why don't we swing it to Mr. Juice? How you doing? What we drinking this week, Juice?
GM, default juice as always. So, past week I've been finishing up all the remediations for the shipments and the mow, plant, and harvest tractor blueprint. I finally got around to doing that yesterday, so I'm waiting for response from Freeho. And I've also been managing some of our, bug bounty programs. It looks like we've been getting the attention of quite a few white hats, even some like top ranked ones. Um, and some of their reports there need some attention. Assessing validity, responding, etc., etc. So I've been doing that, and I'm excited to like finally discuss a deployment timeline after the all the comments on the shipments and the tractor blueprints have been resolved. And yeah, excited to see the efficiency of the converter bonus, especially given how people could now gain stock immediately, given they can convert now and gain some more seats, instead of waiting to get the converter bonus. So I'm curious to see how like the trade-off there, or like how big of an incentive it's going to create. But that's been on my mind lately.
Thanks for the update, Juice. Maybe can you share for those that are maybe a little more nervous in the community? Are any of the bug reports particularly serious, or are they generally more low-level stuff?
So like for reference, maybe like out of the 10 reports we've been receiving is valid, and only like medium severity tops. So I would say it's pretty good, especially given the security framework we've been building for the past few months. With Hypernative active monitoring. That was showcased a couple of weeks ago. You know, Luckily it was like an invalid finding, but still, it like showcased the robustness of the system. Um, and yeah, I would say I feel pretty comfortable in our security framework, and also our incident response. So I'm comfy in Pinto.
Thanks for that update, Juice. Good to hear. For the most part, they're invalid, and those that are valid are very low severity. I guess medium severity, but nonetheless. Um, all right, Pinto Pirate, thanks for joining us. We were just hearing from Frio and Burr about the work on the convert order book. care to chime in how work's going on the middleware and also what else you've been working on?
GM, everybody. Yeah, I've been working on that as well. We're just working on some stuff that will allow us to track those orders as they come in and any executions of those convert orders as well. And this will just give us a lot of stats on various things like the price that the order was executed at, or like the amounts of like the BDVs of which tokens ended up getting converted. Yeah, and that'll be pretty similar functionality to what we have for the sewing tracked orders. So just kind of building on top of what was there with the tractor on the tractor side. That's kind of been the main focus for me for the last little bit. I'm trying to think if there's been anything else significant since the last time I shared. I mean a few fixes that I've made with some of the and like some of the bots or like some of the other graphs, but nothing too major.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that update, Pinto Pirate. Yeah, great to see the whole team collaborating on getting this update out. All right. Floyd Rainweather, you got something you want to share with us?
VM, everyone. On my end, I'm very happy to say that we finally clicked the big red launch button on the new landing page. So if you go to Pinto.money right now, you will see something you're not used to, unless you're in the dev team, of course. But I'm super glad to finally have this out. It's a great way to introduce someone to Pinto, to what it's about, to how it works. It presents a fair bit of information in a very user-friendly way. So yeah, super excited to have this out and see what we can do with it.
Wow. Thank you very much for that update, Floyd, and congratulations on posting this. I know you've been hard at work on this for a very long time.
Let's go. Finally happy as well to have this out.
Yeah, it looks great. I love the UI.
Thanks.
sir.
It's great to hear that. All right. Why don't we kick it over to Pintacito? How are you, sir?
Doing well. I'm happy to be here. I think there's an update to give about all the kind of stuff going on my end, and there was some conversation about doing kind of like a walkthrough through the new landing page UI so that we can kind of highlight the reasons for the different aspects of it and show people that it's kind of a place that they can explore and learn more about the protocol. Do you have a preference, Ben, if to do that now or to give my update and do that later?
I think what would be best is if you share your updates, and then maybe if you could do a screen share and walk us through the landing page, that would be awesome.
Sure. So on the updates front, have been continuing to put out some social content. We did a couple of shorts last week based on the video content that we produced from last week's town hall. So curious if people in the community, I'm so glad to see some familiar faces here today, have any questions that they would like Ben to talk about. I think he'll get on the camera and we can repurpose that if any of it is interesting for people to take a look on Twitter. We're going to start posting those, I think, as YouTube shorts too. So just attempts to try to broaden our reach continuously. Have been having conversations with different people about other social growth opportunities like IRL events globally and bringing on some ambassadors for growth. So those have been some conversations which hopefully we'll have an update about sometime soon. The launch of the landing page is quite exciting. It's really the first of what will be a significant upgrade to the UI. So hope people enjoy it and looking forward to speaking more about that. And otherwise, we published the article about the stock system this week. Ben and I have been chugging through written content and hope to develop a map and publish all of it very soon. We have it sketched out, and Ben has done a great job drafting it, but we're working through it together editing-wise. So soon there will be a high-level, real comprehensive map for people to learn the protocol. And very much interested in people's feedback if they feel like it's too high level or they would benefit from examples, if they found the diagrams helpful when we've done that. Because ultimately this is really for people to understand the system and show them the level of thought that has been given to each component. So happy about that. And assisting with some of the communications with Immunify relating to different bounties, working to find some graphics help, as I've been talking about in previous town halls. So that's ongoing. Obviously, as we produce this content, we want to try to pair it with visual aids. So looking for help on that front. That's basically it from me. Unless anybody has questions, I think it's a good time to jump into the landing page walkthrough.
Well, just quickly, maybe before we start moving on to the landing page stuff, I'll just give a brief update on my end as well. And we can open it up for questions before we do the walkthrough. So I'm mostly focused on content production, and as I've talked about in previous town halls, really getting this funnel down. So in addition to the content map, where with Pintacito, we've got quite a number of drafted and reviewed articles in the pipeline, really trying to get the UI to integrate Tractor, so starting to get the work done on that front as well. And a lot of love went into this landing page as well. So from my perspective, it's like we have the Y articles, some of which we put out, some of which are just drafted and ready to go. We have the how articles, which we've started to put out as well. This week we published the stock system article. We've got a whole series of future how articles in the gauntlet. And I don't know if I said that properly. And then we've got the UI, and I've also been working on editing all the PIs to get them really up to standard and to a point where anyone that wants to follow all the development that's happened over the past 10 months can learn about all the different changes and why they've been occurring. So just really trying to get all of the resources up to speed. Also going to work on beefing up the white paper a bit in the coming weeks, and also the Git book. So just a lot of content and user experience, quality of life stuff. And yeah, the other thing I've been doing, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, you've seen I've been tweeting every day. Nikita Beer, who I think is the chief product officer of X, posted recently, if you want to go viral, basically, or I think he put it as like make a living on X, which is not my focus. You should pick a topic that you're the foremost expert in and tweet about it under 5 sentences every day. So since then, I've been tweeting every day, sort of telling the story in different parts of the protocol, and intend to continue to do that. So it's been fun to see some of the tweets have gotten quite a number of impressions, and yeah, just trying to really tell the story. I'm very proud of where the protocol is at, and trying to get all the docs up to speed and the user experience up to speed to reflect that, and then separately spread the good word to the people. So yeah, that's pretty much it on my end. Okay, so maybe we'll briefly pause for questions about anything that was said, and then I think it would be great to have Pintacito give a walkthrough on the landing page, and then we'll have a more general open period for questions, comments, thoughts, etc. But if anyone had any particular questions that they wanted to get out before we do the landing page, now's a great time. Great. All right, Pintacito, care to do the honors and do a screen share and walk us through it?
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I would just add, if anybody has any comments, whether it's contributors about things that they want to share or add, or anybody else in the community who has questions or wants to give feedback as we do this, that's great by me. So let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. any moment. Oh, it looks like I'm gonna have to quit and reopen. Give me a second. All right, I'm back. All right. So can people see my screen? All right, I think people can see my screen. So, oh, they can still see the Discord. How about now? Looks good. Okay. So if you go to the pinto.money site, you can see, and I encourage, if the frame by frame is slow here, people can look on their own device. Obviously, it's compatible with mobile, but we have kind of a new slogan here that we've put out a little bit, but not really with focus, that Pinto is an algorithmic stablecoin balanced by farmers like you. I mean, a little bit about journey here. This has been something that we've talked about in the context of wanting to distance ourselves, definitely like in the early days when we launched Pinto, from the conversation around algorithmic stablecoins, given the kind of bias that people have against them, both in terms of the demand for total stability and a perfect peg, and because of the past failures like Terra that we've talked about a lot here. But I think this is kind of us pivoting and feeling like it's a conversation worth leading and advocating publicly through our writing and our discourse that algorithmic stablecoins don't need to maintain a perfect peg, and that they're not only a legitimate but a worthwhile cause to build. And of course, you can see here with the graphic that the farmers are the ones who are returning the price of Pinto to its value target through the many actions that the system enables and incentivizes. And I guess maybe not to say too much, but this resembles a heartbeat, which I think the intention is to show the life of the system, that the protocol is dynamic. It's something that every season is adapting to market conditions and growing to achieve its ends. Something which is accomplished with the help of the actors participating in their own interest. So that's kind of the first graphic we have here. Of course, the text, "Come see the Leviathan-free economy." We're not moving away from Leviathan-free here. And that will take you to the app itself. And as you move down to the second part here, you can see that Pinto combines the values of Ethereum with the properties of USD. I think this is, in essence, what Pinto does. It is trying to be a medium of exchange and unit of account in a way that is value aligned, something which other stablecoins in the space cannot speak much about. And there is content here which people can play around with, including each of these definitions. Fairness, below fairness, it says the Pinto printer is designed to be free from capture. And we've gone through and actually formulated some what we think are generally rigorous definitions about all these terms, including trustlessness, and then said a bit about what Pinto does to achieve that level of trustlessness. So I'm excited for people to play around here and learn something if they want to. And we have this "Why is Pinto the best alternative to centralized stablecoins" link, which takes them to the Pinto Prints for the People article, which is a good comprehensive high-level article for people. So definitely proud of this. The rigor behind here, I think, comes through and is something that people can explore. And as they move down to the next section, you see the level of work that has been done on the protocol with 4 kind of click-through features. The first being all of the upgrades of the past, starting with Beanstalk and going all the way through the last few years. this has a model where a feature where you can search and filter through the different kinds of whether they were BIPs or eBIPs or PIs in the past, so people can kind of get a real history of the progress that has been made, and complemented by the work Ben has been doing to upgrade the PIs. I think this is hopefully going to be a good resource to people and a fun if they want to learn more about the protocol. So that's pretty cool. Highlighting different contributions from contributors. We have some of the YPinto images and quotes here. 51 contributors, 51 people committing to the GitHub is something I think to really be proud of. And people can learn a bit here about the different stories that make up our community. 4+ years of work. We have all the white papers here with small introductions showing the level of rigorous documentation and work that has been done on these protocols is something that we feel proud to connect the origins through Beanstalk with where we've come to today. And this last one is not interactive. It's just a chart that people can see the level of volume throughout the couple systems throughout the last few years. We have some security information, audits, bounties, and our Hypernative partnership. And then we come down to some resources for people to engage and play around in the community. And that's it. That's the new landing page. Obviously, if you click to see the Leviathan Free Economy, you'll be returned to the app. So this is pretty exciting. I'm curious if anybody has any feedback. A tremendous amount of work went into this. Shout out Floyd. Shout out the rest of the team for helping to design it, give feedback, and iterate on it throughout this time. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm curious if people have questions or feedback. I know a lot of thought has gone into this. Sovereign Llama, are you talking by chance? Because I'm not hearing anything at this point.
No, I'm not. Nope. I am right now though.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Well, I'm going to end my screen share now if nobody has any questions, but thank you guys for listening and paying attention.
Thanks for that walkthrough, Pintacito. Big shout out to everyone that was involved in making this thing happen. Personally, I feel like it does a strong job of conveying the love and dynamicism of the protocol, the love that's gone into it, and the dynamicism of the mechanism and the values behind it, how much work has gone into it. So, honestly, it's very exciting, and I feel like it's deep, so people can spend a lot of time here getting up to speed on so much of the stuff, and it's also a hub to direct them towards different resources. So, very exciting, and I hope this is the first step in a series of steps to really radically revamp the UX. Again, once we have this bonus go out, a lot of our focus on the development side as well. It's going to be towards integrating Tractor into everything and really getting the UX as a whole to a point where it's something that perhaps more people in DeFi will find usable and palatable. So shout out Floyd for leading the charge. Shout out Rio and Tito for your endless rounds of feedback. Thank you all. Very exciting stuff. All right. Why don't we open up the floor to questions, comments, thoughts, etc. And I'm going to also turn on my camera, so maybe we can use some of this as video content. So any questions are appreciated. I am on camera officially. Frio is in the reflection mirror somehow in the window. Say hi, Frio. The back of Rio's head is in the mirror. All right, don't hide. And not swag, but I've got some pretty cool swag on. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of this hat. All right, the floor is open. Questions, comments, thoughts? What's on people's minds?
Hey Ben, do you have those in a non-dad hat version? You know, not the floppy style. I prefer more of a stiff front. My question pertains to scalability of this protocol here. You talk about using it as a currency of exchange, and right now, most successful non-centralized stable coins are CDP, and we found that those have trouble to really scale. So, what sets Pinto apart? Like, how do we scale this thing? Where everybody is using it, right? So how do we Luna it without without people freaking out, and how do you see this scaling?
Thank you for your question, Sovereign Llama. There's a couple elements, so I'll try to address all of them. First, where do we get the scalability from? And how is Pinto more scalable than CDP-based stablecoins without sacrificing on the property of like exposure to a centralized part per se? It has to do with the source of value for the protocol. So with CDP-based stablecoins, all of the value in the stablecoin is coming from some exogenous source of value, where the CDP is basically just taking that value and wrapping it. And so in that case, any CDP stablecoin is going to be limited in its ability to scale based on the available collateral on the network. And you'll actually see over time, there's very little endogenous value on the Ethereum network or on any crypto network. Really, the vast majority of value on the Ethereum network is just in Ether. On Solana is just in Sol, and so on and so forth. There are very few other sources of value on the network. And so if your model to create a stablecoin is to take that value and wrap it, you're going to cap in your scalability by the value on the network. And the issue in particular is not just absolute scale, but as you lock up more and more of the very finite value on the network, the opportunity cost to realize locking so much of that value increases. And so fundamentally, these are unscalable source of value. If you juxtapose that against Pinto actually has its own endogenous value. While it derives a price from the liquidity that it trades against, it does not derive its value from liquidity it trades against. It has its own endogenous value. And that endogenous value is based on its credit and the creditworthiness of the protocol. And so the fact that Pinto has its own source of value, its own endogenous source of value, means that it can scale arbitrarily to meet demand. Even if the value which it trades against, the liquidity it trades against, is capped in a similar way to the amount of collateral that could be locked up to mint a stablecoin based on a CDP. The fact is that the supply of Pinto can grow arbitrarily to meet demand, even if there is no more liquidity in which it can trade against. So this is where, from a first principle, a fundamentally better source of collateral. It's really so far the only source of endogenous value that's been discovered that can be used to create a stable coin that can scale. Now, you could, not to digress too much, sort of attach volatility dampening mechanisms to something like Ether, which is the network token. But as we're seeing, Ether itself is not necessarily even getting the majority of its value now from network fees. It's actually coming from its utility as money, starting to view it as a store of value. So then there's a question of, is it be one currency that serves as a store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account, or are we going to have sort of like a bicameral system? Maybe not bicameral. I would say bimetallist, but that's when we had gold and silver, bi-currency system where we have one currency like Ether or Bitcoin that is optimized for store value, and then another currency like Beans or Pinto that are optimized to be a medium of exchange and unit of account. So that's sort of an open question at this point. Now, to answer your question about how do we grow dramatically and actually scale this thing without having a Terra Luna sized disaster, that's a really interesting question. And I think the punchline is the system needs to grow with organic demand. One of the things that ultimately led to Terra's downfall, aside from the fact that the model wasn't actually very good or very sustainable or anti-reflexive, is that there wasn't really any sort of utility for the currency. Do Kwon was advertising that there was utility for payments and such, but when it all came crashing down, it turned out that wasn't actually true. In reality, the vast majority of demand for the currency came from purely speculative demand that was created as people trying to basically draw from or receive totally subsidized fake interest. There was no source of that yield other than just an arbitrary interest that was set by Do Kwon and the other people running the protocol. And really, that's not a sustainable way to grow. So in Pinto's case, there is no hard set minimum interest rate, no default yield. There's certainly no hard peg promised. And so the proposal is fundamentally different in nature. And now the question becomes, particularly in light of the converter bonus upgrade that's what seems like weeks away, where it really represents, in my mind, sort of about like a end of, or if you think about Beanstalk and Pinto development, the sort of difference of curve in the sophistication of the model, the deployment of the system weeks will represent really the end of this portion of the S-curve in the development of the model. Where I think this whole S-curve really started when we deployed Pinto. And as a result, the focus now should really be on trying to create adoption and find product market fit. And so this is something that started to be talked about quite a lot in the Pinto Discord. It's something I've been focused on quite a lot over the past couple years. And my hope is that we will see one or more exchanges, particularly a perpetual exchange, as we've talked about quite a number of times in town halls, adopt Pinto as an alternative to a USDT or a USDC settled stable perpetual future, and use Pinto instead. So in my mind, this really is the most likely way that DeFi native context we're going to find product market fit and have the ability to scale to billions based on sustainable organic demand for the system, where the yield generated from the growth in demand for the protocol actually in an organic fashion leads to more demand for the protocol. So that's the vision. Get this thing adopted and do it in a sustainable fashion, and thereby avoid Terra Luna style collapse. At the same time, I feel obligated to say we are at the forefront of an experimental field and nothing is promised. And so even if the model is in a very strong spot, and even if the vast majority of demand comes from real utility, real product market fit, that is not to say that the system will be able to sustain itself in perpetuity. So this is something we should all be mindful of. I think this is something we should continue to communicate openly about and transparently about, that this is a volatile, risky system. But nonetheless, I do feel, particularly with the deployment of the convert bonus system in the next couple weeks, we will be at a time where the right thing to do is to try to get more people to use this to pay attention. So that's my answer to your question. Thank you very much, Sovereign Llama. Curious if that question of any follow-ups.
No, it certainly did. I'm excited to follow and see how you guys work on creating demand for it. Thank you. Anyways, I gotta run. I appreciate you throwing this town hall, and I will try to catch the next one.
Cheers. Thank you very much for joining and for your question, sir. All right, the floor is open. What other questions, thoughts, comments, curiosities, FUD? What's on people's mind?
Jim, I find it pretty interesting that the CBBTC seeds are sitting at like 0.01, and yet there's still 736,000 USD worth deposited in there, despite the fact that they're basically earning no stock. Why do you think that is? Like, why are people not converting? Are they just checked out, or is the stock not worth that much to them?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. From my perspective, it's very hard to know what is creating this type of behavior. You know, part of it is that people may have a preference to hold BTC exposure. Now, at the same time, to hold BTC exposure when you're effectively earning no seeds does mean that there's either an overwhelming preference to hold the CBTC or don't care a stock that they're sizing. But as it does, it might be that some of the participants are not paying that close attention. So it's very hard to know, honestly. It is hard to know. But I think lack of participation is definitely something that we should be looking at. In my mind, the introduction of Tractor will hopefully keep this type of situation to a minimum, where when people are engaged with protocol, they can post their orders to convert under certain instances, such that the amount of value that will likely be stuck in accounts that are not necessarily participating to a minimum. At the same time, I think we do need to explore how to handle certain instances where, you know, at this point, given the lack of outflows from the protocol, it is in many ways a detriment to the protocol maintenance to have people that are holding LP in the system that refuse to convert. So on the one hand, you could say like increase the crop ratio, but already if you compare the Pinto seeds to the CBBTC seeds, it's like a 400x difference. So hard to imagine that doubling the crop ratio and getting it to 800x is really going to make a big difference. So yeah, it's probably one of the blemishes in the system right now, that there's so much CBBTC being held and no seeds in them. So it is an indicator that the seed gauge isn't as active as it would be. I'm interested in seeing how the convert bonus, the introduction of that, actually affects people's desire to continue to hold these sets. But candidly, I don't think that the system is designed it will have a meaningful influence on people that are not caring about their stock at all. In fact, it's designed around people that do care about their stock. So perhaps, yeah, it would be very interesting to hear from people that continue to hold CBBTC, why they're holding it. It is something that the protocol is actively trying to disincentivize quite heavily. So, yeah, I think it's a great question, Ford. Go ahead.
With that in mind, would it be worth considering like a negative seeds? Like, should those people be penalized, or does that not make sense because it scares away people from holding liquidity in the protocol?
It's very interesting. At the same time, I think, I mean, that would sort of be the way to discover whether people are just not participating or whether it is that they're really choosing to hold on to the CBBTC exposure at the cost of stock. I mean, at the same time, you're not going to get an absolute answer there. But if you were starting to lose seeds, you know, and there's obviously a minimum, right? Like, you can't go less than the base stock reward, because you could always just withdraw and then redeposit. But the idea is, yeah, maybe it is worth considering some sort of negative seed. It would require a lot of complexity to implement that, so I can't see us doing that anytime soon, but it's definitely something to consider as we continue to get more data about how the market participates in this system.
Then I guess the other side of that is, if you can't lower the seeds more for CBBTC, you can simply, you know, increase seeds for the others, which would basically only be possible with increasing the max crop ratio. Is that something that's been considered? I'd love to see that personally.
Yeah, Actually, since your suggestion, I think it was in the last town hall, I've been thinking about it quite a lot. It might have been a couple weeks ago. In my mind, the crop ratio right now, the fact that it's capped at 200% is really not in line with the general way that the protocol has been designed in the past, particularly when you think about the temperature. One of the big improvements that Beanstalk made over ESD and its other credit-based predecessors is that it didn't follow any sort of hard set interest rate curve. Instead, it let the interest rate, the temperature fluctuate freely in response to market conditions. And so to have that on the crop ratio side, originally the idea behind it was to cap it at 100% such that at all times the protocol would be encouraging holding LP, at least one LP, at least as much as it encourages holding Pinto in the silo. But as we've learned, there's such a preference, an overwhelming preference from depositors to hold LP, that it really does make sense to allow the protocol to float the crop above 100%. And at that point, then the question is, will I have a cap at all? So this is something we'll be looking at and continuing to think more about, but definitely an interesting proposition, and appreciate you raising it recently. And I could see it being one of the smaller updates that we put out in the not too distant future.
Your video is a bit out of sync of your audio, but it's all good. Would the consideration be to like uncap the crop ratio or just raise it up to something like super high? And then would it make more sense also to increase it more slowly as it gets higher, or that would kind of nerf the effectiveness of it and it should behave more like the temperature where it increases at a constant rate indefinitely?
I think for something like the crop ratio, if you raise the max crop ratio to something like 10,000, very high, nipping pretty much all of the effects. So without any significant development, we can model not having a cap. A more sophisticated version where we have the amount that it increases decrease at the margin, the higher it gets, is also interesting, but I can't say that it's necessary. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to float as freely as the temperature, because unlike the temperature where it's like an absolute interest rate that's a function of the pod rate, in this case it is all relative, the amount of seeds that are being held for a given deposit. And so ultimately you could say, well, there's such an overwhelming preference to hold LP, and we know what is, you can impose a maximum on the crop ratio just like you can impose a maximum on the temperature, but they are fundamentally different from the perspective of like, well, as the pod line gets longer, it's naturally normal for people to require a higher interest rate, whereas in the case of the crop ratio, there isn't really anything substantively changing when it comes to the distribution of Pinto versus LP in the silo that has that same effect. So I think we can get a lot of the benefits without necessarily changing the mechanism, but this is one of the things we've been thinking about.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I feel inspired to say is, personally, I think it sucks that right now we're at a point where, I'm basically like Jerome Powell, and we have a group of people that have particular interest in the protocol and really been the ones that are effectively making these monetary policy changes. But that's not the goal. The goal is to have an open, permissionless, autonomous system. And the more we get into the weeds where we are making like very subjective and marginal changes to the parameters of the system beyond just designing more mechanisms, like the convert bonus thing that was designed with quite a big committee. And that's something I'm proud of, in the way that we've extended the design of these types of systems beyond just Brendan and I in the original days to now like a dozen people or more weighed in on the design here, which to me is quite an improvement. That's very different than, although it still has, to some extent, it still is true about that, very different than parameterizing the system. And so one of the things I'm very excited about, even though it's still a couple months away, is the fork system, which to me will be a radical improvement to the governance of the system. It should really return Pinto to Beanstalk's roots in terms of an open, permissionless, and censorship-resistant system, including with respect to governance. And so much work has gone into redesigning governance for this system after the Beanstalk exploit. And for me, it will really mark major chapter in the development of algo stables to return back to an open permissionless governance system. So I appreciate your been very important in my heart. It hurts you talking this way of, oh yeah, we'll see, and we're just going to decide to do what we do. Only we really are going to live and die by open permissionless governance, and I'm very excited about this system that we've been designing for years, and that it's single digit months away from seeing the wild. So yeah, just a bit of a digression, but something I feel obligated to say as I'm here talking about all the changes we're going to make, which is abundantly centralized and not what we want.
But even though the decisions are centralized, it seems like the people thinking about this are
All
making
right,
the
we're
most
coming into the top of the
logical.
hour. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I think you might have been a little bit delayed. I'll restate.
Sorry, I think there's
Even
a
if the
lag.
governance
So
changes,
keep
it
going
seems like
with your question. Sorry.
yeah, even if the governance changes, it seems like the group that's really been thinking about this has been making the most logical decisions that one could possibly make about monetary policy changes. But still, the system is, not quite expanding the way that people had hoped. So I don't see that a governance change would, change anything about this if there's not any obvious improvement that can be made by this governance change. So do you think that does that mean that the governance change is really the most important thing to be working on, or are there some other model improvements that need to be made in order to help the system grow, or is it more of a marketing problem than a model?
Thanks for your question. I think it's two separate things. One, when it comes to our values and our mission here to create a new currency that is censorship resistant, permissionless, trustless. To me, to not have the governance in place is a major blotch on the system. It's not good. At the same time, to your point, the governance is likely not particularly the governance decisions, aside from the governance mechanism itself, the governance decisions currently being made with respect to monetary policy are not likely the thing holding the system back. I would find it to be the parameter changes making are hurting the system and its ability to grow. At the same time, and with that said, in my mind, with the deployment of the convert bonus system, that will really be the first time, maybe ever, probably ever, where I feel like it's time to really get out there and tell the world, this thing is, if not ready for prime time, we don't have any more major ideas that can be implemented in the next year plus that will take this thing to another level. And so it really is ready for the world to try out. Even if it doesn't work, it's ready for the world to try out. And so to me, it's more of a marketing thing at this point. And I would say, though, I will personally feel a lot more comfortable marketing this thing when we have the right governance in place. So not necessarily directly related, but in my mind, when we talk about what we're actually doing here, why we're doing it, to not have the governance be aligned with our values, I think makes it hard to really tell the world about so excited about authentic way. It's not directly, but definitely related.
Got it. Thanks for the answer.
All right, the floor is open.
Hey, Ben, I just sent a message in the chat, but I was just asking, is there any plans for merch? And then the other one was, is there any more plans for, Pinto presence at any crypto kind of events or conferences that are coming up in the future?
You like this hat? You like this hat, Tenchan Nichan?
Yeah, I think a shirt would be great though. I think a shirt with a really great statement on it could spark some good conversation in real life.
Yeah, we should probably do some merch soon. We've been working on a couple different iterations on that internally. No one's got it on right now, I don't think. But yeah, we should try to do something like that soon. I think it's a great community building thing. With respect to the events, the next event that we'll present will be Connect in Argentina in, I believe, November. I expect to be speaking at Stable Summit. We might be co-hosting a couple things. So that's the next major event that we'll be at in a significant way.
Cool. Thank you.
The floor is open. Love all these questions. All right. We're a little over the top of the hour, so I think we'll wrap here. Thank you to everyone for coming. Thank you for your questions and your curiosity. Shout out Floyd for this landing page. Super exciting. And Peace.
Doing good, doing good.